All right. So, trick or treat?
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat. In the spirit of Halloween, and since it is our Halloween spooktacular that you came up with, we're going to play a little bit of trick or treat. And essentially what we're doing here, we're going to look at some players that maybe had a good week this past week or a bad week, and we're going to ask, going forward, are they going to be a trick or a treat for your fantasy lineup? So, of course, trick would be this past week was probably a fluke if they had a good week. Obviously, treat means that we believe that they are going to, deliver some.
So they're going to help you out.
Some sweetness, in the second half.
So trick is bad,
fantasy
treat
lineups.
is good.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's usually the way it goes, right?
Yeah. So if they're going to do well, they're candy corn.
So trick is candy corn, yeah.
No, treat is candy corn.
Oh, okay.
All right, wait,
No.
Trick is candy corn.
Treat is Reese's peanut butter cup. Ooh. Remember when people gave you those? Oh my god, I would dig through because I don't really eat a candy. Right. I dig through, find those Reese's. Oh my god, Almond Joy.
Butterfinger was always up there. Almond Joy.
Oh, I love coconut and I love chocolate and I love
likes
almonds.
Coconut? Oh, out of here! Get out of here!
Get me all your Almond Joy and I'll give you all my Mars bars.
Baby Ruth.
Baby Ruth. We're so old.
We are. Yeah, I don't even think I'm going to bother inserting a Goonies clip just because,
Yeah, you will.
Chocolate.
You want a candy bar?
You do now.
Look, I got a Baby Ruth, sir.
Let it stand. Pardons. And now, for the final crowning touch to this cake. Take about a spoon of cocoa.
I'm gonna throw it to you, okay?
Put it in a...
All right, well, we touched on him a little bit earlier, so we don't have to spend a lot of time. But Kenyon Drake, trick or treat?
I'm going to say trick because I just don't know if David Johnson's hurt really bad. I mean, it looks like that could be why they did it. So if David Johnson's hurt bad, he's a treat. If he's not, it's a trick. Because obviously David Johnson's the man. The Edmonds will be back in a couple weeks, and then he's a waste.
I'm going to say trick.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Well, this week he's a trick. No matter what against San Fran.
If news came out that David Johnson and Chase Edmonds are going to miss the rest of the season,
it's still a trick.
It's still a trick.
It's still candy corn.
And I
Poor Drake, man.
Run to the waiver wire to pick up Zach Zenner.
Wow, you hate Drake a lot to say that.
Somebody that we might be a little more excited about, running back David Montgomery. Finally had the big game, 27 carries. Now, Nagy had come out, too, saying that he wanted to commit more to the running game and get him involved. Well, that was some coach speak that, you could rely on. 27 carries, 135 yards and a touchdown, as well as 4 catches for 12 yards. I mean, not a lot of yardage, but did get involved in the passing game. So, David Montgomery, trick or treat?
I'm going to say, without a doubt, he's a treat. I've liked him all year. It's just taken a while for them to figure out what to do with him. And Trubisky got hurt. And I think that the rest of the year that he has a pretty good schedule. His playoff schedule is pretty good. He's got Dallas, Green Bay, and Kansas City. Green Bay, you can run on him. Yeah. He's got other games that don't really scare you, like Detroit, the Giants. So anyway, I think they're going to figure. I think Nagy figured out what to do with this kid. He's the best talent on the team as far as a banger that could also catch the ball. He's just a versatile. He's like a Miles Sanders without Jordan Howard there to kind of cap his upside.
Yeah, the 27 carries. I mean, that was a welcome sight.
Yes.
If you're a David Montgomery owner, I have him in a league, and absolutely. I mean, if you don't, it doesn't need to be 27, but if you can hopefully just count on around 20,
20
week,
touches a week.
Right, and at least a couple catches, absolutely. He should possibly throughout the second half of the season start to deliver that RB2, consistent RB2 value that you thought you might be getting when you drafted him, especially with all the hype behind him coming into drafts. So maybe just, like you said, he was a rookie. They may have eased him into it, but hopefully the training wheels are off.
I think he's ready to go.
So a lot of Butterfingers, from here on in. A lot of Almond Joys. Your boy, tight end, Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith.
And, well, listen, we had to talk about him. He had 6 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown.
Yep.
You grabbed him off of waivers in a league we're in. You said, look, you're doing it because Delaney Walker, he's old. He was coming off a major injury. And other than, I think, the week one, I think he had a decent game,
Yeah,
and then
2
it's just
touchdowns.
been
Yeah, that was
right. It's been nothing since. So Jonnu Smith, if you're tight, if you're in need of tight end,
Which
you're
pretty
thin
much
there.
everybody is.
A lot of people are.
Yeah, unless you have Waller.
All right, trick or treat?
I'm going to say he's definitely a treat. I think Delaney's done. I'm not saying for sure he won't come back, but I think he's done as far as he's just damaged goods. It's a really tough position to play in the NFL, tight end. We talked about this last week. He's taking a punishment. His legs aren't holding up anymore. And this kid's, come on. Like, my whole thing is when you have somebody that's better, younger, then what
More
are you doing?
athletic, right.
Yeah, what are you doing? Just let Jonnu Smith play. I mean, he's been, holding the clipboard, so to speak, for Walker for a couple of years. It's his time. It's time to go. And even with Walker, I think that he played a lot of snaps with Walker in, I think 60% of the snaps or something. I think it's his time to shine. And I had him in all my DraftKings, and I picked him in 2 leagues. I love him. I think he's good the rest of the way. I really do.
So you started him, huh? Like, or I'm saying you had him in your
I had him in my
daily?
my DraftKings, and I made $18. It's amazing, man. How
Winning.
It's just amazing how hard it is to
why
cash
do we-
top.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like all the money's at the top.
Just take the money, flush it down the toilet at the beginning of the season, and it'd be the same thing pretty much. All right. Running back, we touched on him a little bit too, but let's see your thoughts on this. Running back, Ty Johnson. Detroit
Ty
Lions.
Johnson,
Trick or treat.
It's trick or treat. It's tough because I know by the time people are going to be watching this, and by the way, the reason it takes so long is it's not easy to putting in all these clips, and I mean, it's a very time-consuming process. So if you're ever wondering why do the two ball a-holes have this stuff coming out Fridays and Saturdays, it takes, and Brian, I gotta give him all the credit when it comes to this, it takes a lot of time to put those clips. It's not just you put them in, you got to frame them, you got to make sure everything works with the audio. So anyway, I
appreciate
it's a lot of work, it really is, and I salute you for it. But when you watch this, you'll know whether or not Detroit made a move at the deadline tomorrow. We're doing this Monday night tonight.
Right.
If they make a move for Penny, for example, or some other competent running back, then definitely he's a trick.
Right.
If not, I don't know if what happened this past weekend is a sign of things to come, but I'm going to say, gun to my head, even if they don't make a trade, I'm still going to say he's a trick. I think that this week showed that they don't want him to be the man, just like the trade with Carlos Hyde showed us that Duke didn't want to be the man.
Right.
Look, it's held up.
Right.
It's held up through 2 months.
Absolutely.
They just don't want these guys to be the man.
I think that's a great call because, I mean, look, obviously, right, if they bring in somebody we know, easy call to say trick.
Easy call,
but,
right.
Even without it. I mean, look, they gave Trey Carson, however you say the guy's name, 12 carries, and Ty got, I think it was 7 or 8. So, he didn't even lead the team in carries, the first week that he supposedly was going to get the majority of the work. They brought in Paul Perkins. You still have McKissick, who can, obviously,
Yeah, and he's the guy that work in the passing behind.
Game.
Yeah,
absolutely. So.
And I also think that the Lions, for whatever reason, they abandoned the run. They just have been abandoning the run for a guy that wanted to run and play defense. They're leaning on Stafford's arm. Galladay just had a huge day. Marvin Jones had a huge week before. Hawkinson's competent, and you got big Amendola. I mean, another big week. So yeah, I think that he's definitely a trick.
Well, since you brought him up, let's just cover that real quickly. We did also have here Danny Amendola. I mean, 8 for 95. Madly inconsistent. I mean, doesn't seem like something you can rely on. But I guess the reason why I wanted to at least touch on him was my question maybe is the fact that with Carry-On out and maybe they don't really feel that even Ty Johnson is that much of a threat in the short passing game. I know they do have McKissick, but did they just decide or is there a chance that they're going to rely more on Stafford in the passing game to get through this? If they don't bring in somebody, are they just going to rely on Stafford? And, what we've kind of heard is that when your running game's suffering, you can utilize the short passing game. And that's, of course, where Amendola excels. So do you think it was just another fluke performance? Because I think he did this, week 1, right? Comes out, has
he's had a couple of
11, 11 catches. And we came right out. We said it was a fluke then. But, any reason to believe that it's not a fluke this time around, and
Yeah, it's a fluke to me. I mean,
So it's a
I'd
trick.
rather have some. Yeah. So a trick. I would rather have like a Cole Beasley from Buffalo, who seems to be a little bit more consistent and more red zone friendly. I'm not a big fan, and I think that the Lions are crazy if they think they're going to just abandon the run, because at least with Carry-On, you had to respect it. If teams start saying, "Oh, you're going to just throw," then
Right.
you can't be one dimensional. They're not that good. I think they're good, but they're not that good. Like Marvin Jones and Galladay and Hawkinson's pretty good, but it's not elite where you could just say, "Screw it, we're not running anymore."
Well,
So they're
right,
going to have to figure out something to keep defenses honest.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, so
definitely trick.
Definitely trick on.
And I'm sorry to everybody that wasted all their waiver stuff. I mean, it was a no-brainer to go after him hard. I mean, how often do you inherit
Oh, you're talking
potential,
about Ty Johnson, right?
a potential starting run? You know, so I think that he's a trick, and I think Amendola is a trick too.
Yeah. Well, luckily we're not one of those people who.
Yeah, luckily.
Spent all their fab budget on Ty Johnson.
You still got like $1, right?
Give me an ale.
A bald ale.
Let's we're gonna combo these guys. We're gonna pair them up, and we're gonna say Tampa Bay wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So it's like pick your week. Who's it going to be week by week? This week, of course, it's Evans. 11 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 4 catches, 43 yards. I don't know if you want to separate them, or I don't know if you have an opinion on what you'd be willing to say about both these guys in fantasy lineups going forward. But trick or treat, tell us what you think about Evans and Godwin.
Treat all the way. I love them both. I think 5 of the last 7 weeks I read today, they've combined for 17 targets between the two of them. It's not a one or the other. Sometimes it works out that way because one just has a blow-up game. But I think there's just plenty of room to go around for both of them. I think they're going to be throwing. Obviously, they don't run the ball all that well. I'm just looking at their schedule real quick. I mean, they got Arizona, they got Atlanta coming up, Detroit, Houston's bad secondary. Indy's not very scary. Couple sprinkled in there like Seattle, bad secondary, New Orleans, Jacksonville. Those are the only 2 bad games they got left.
Right.
So they're gonna be throwing against all these teams, so I think that they came out of the bye, they wanted to feed their big guy, and I think they're gonna both be pretty good the rest of the way. I think you pretty much have 2 wide receiver ones the rest of the way. Will there be weeks where one blows over 200 and the other one only has 40, 50? Yeah, it's the nature.
There'll be trick weeks.
Yeah, there'll be trick weeks. Like look at Fuller and
There'll
Hopkins.
be plenty of treats.
That happens. Sometimes somebody just has a really they want to expose a weak matchup, a bad corner, a bad slot receiver, or whatever it is. You just don't really, and that's why you got to pay attention to who's covering these guys.
Absolutely.
And that's stuff that you can find. Like who is the cornerback that's going to be playing your receivers is very important.
Right. But the bottom line is, I mean, look, I guess it maybe didn't even make a lot of sense to ask because you're not benching either one of them.
You're not.
I mean, as a fantasy manager, it's impossible now to ever justify benching either one of these guys just because of their capability of having literally a week-changing week. So,
but it's more to the trick or treat part of this is more also about, do you buy low, do you sell high?
Right.
If you have Mike Evans, you're like, oh, finally I could sell him now. No, don't
hold on to him.
Hold on. I know he can sometimes be frustrating, but he had 3 touchdowns against the Giants in week 3. He had 2 this past week, and he had some really tough matchups in there. Yeah. So
and like
he's had
said,
the 49ers in week 1, then he had the Rams, he had the Saints, he had the Carolina Panthers. So these are good defenses he's had.
Absolutely.
Now he's got bad defenses coming up. This is when you want to jump on. So if you can get Mike Evans, grab him. Maybe there is a guy in your league that wants to sell high.
All right.
Be very happy to oblige him.
Absolutely. All right. Your boy, ODB.
You know my name down. Give me my money.
Hey,
Sing it.
baby, I got your
Also known as OBJ.
Old
Odell
dirty bastard.
Beckham Jr. Listen, Patriots, 5 catches, 52 yards. Talk about a guy that, we were talking about the Browns in general, just maybe didn't pay attention to how tough their schedule is.
Yeah.
And, some of the defenses that they've had to face. It certainly gets a little bit easier as we get closer to the playoffs, but there's still a few tough matchups to come. So, OBJ, trick or treat, rest of the way.
I'm going to surprise you with this one. I'm going to say treat. I'm going to say I would love to buy on him. Maybe I'd wait past the Denver-Buffalo upcoming 2 games. But after that, it opens up. Pittsburgh twice, Miami, Cincinnati. This is the playoff schedule. Cincinnati, Arizona, and then Baltimore, who people hear Baltimore, and you just think historically they've always been good, but they don't have a good secondary.
Right.
So that's a good matchup. So I think, they brought him in, gave him all this money. You know he's a troublemaker. You know he gets loud if he's not getting his way. So with all that, the possibility Trent Williams comes. They're talking about again today that Washington is now starting to come to their senses. Like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Let's get something for this guy. Get some draft picks. So I think that the Browns, if they land Trent Williams, oh my God, this team's going to make a huge turnaround in the second half. If they don't, I still think Odell Beckham is a definite treat the rest of the way. Wow. Maybe not the next 2 weeks. That'll be a little tough. But maybe they're not formidable to the point where you can't start people. It's not like San Francisco or the Saints or something like that.
Listen, you know, he was up against that vaunted Patriots defense and had a 5 for 52. So even that didn't kill you.
Right.
You know, so the fact that. But yeah, I mean, I would say I think you make an excellent point in the sense that 2 more tough matchups coming up as far as Denver and Buffalo, not the greatest matchups. So it's probably where your team's at right now. If you are sitting, you know, in a position where you're almost a lock for the playoffs, but you're looking, and you can say that OBJ would be an upgrade over your wide receiver 1 or 2. Yeah, go get him. Because you can have at least that confidence that if he has 2 more mediocre games, okay, you should be able to survive that. But then his playoff schedule, absolutely. If you're right now, you know, on the outside looking in, I don't know if it makes sense to I mean, you could still target him because he could still be an upgrade over what you're starting, but I think you would prioritize based off of you're really looking at that playoff schedule.
Yeah, looking at the playoff schedule. So I like what you said. I like if you're 6-2 or better,
right?
Even maybe 5-3. And you're looking like, you know what, I think I'm pretty much getting in the playoffs. This is a good guy. Somebody's probably going to sell low because of the frustration factor.
Absolutely.
Like, what was I thinking taking this guy? Whoever has him spent a second rounder. Mm-hmm. So they're probably hurting. Maybe give him something that looks good and get yourself a guy for the stretch that can. That's the thing. You can't just look at what he's doing so far. And if you want to look at what he's doing so far, look at they say the back of the baseball card, right? Is the expression. They're going to get their numbers usually. So if halfway through they're way off their pace, well, what is the next half going to look like? If you couple that with what's the next half going to look like against a terrible schedule when the first half was a bad schedule? Well, that is just common sense math.
Absolutely.
He's going to have a big second half. It's just that's what history tells us. Right. So is it possible he doesn't? Yeah, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
So buy on OBJ. As much as I don't like the man, but
I'm not going to make you say his full name, so we'll just go with his initials. MVS.
Oh God, I'm terrible with this guy. I have him everywhere.
MVS, man. Well, a lot of people.
I don't know if I'm bragging about that. I don't think so. I think I'm ashamed of it.
I obviously watching the pre-game, fantasy shows before, the games this Sunday, and so many people out there saying, dude, this is a great start because obviously he's gonna be the de facto number 1 in this matchup against a weak, defense, and Aaron Rodgers coming off of that huge, game that he had. So there was a lot of reasons to believe that MVS would be able to have a big game. 2 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. Look, obviously a lot depends on Devontae Adams. Everything, I believe from what I've been reading, that he is going to play this week, but I think they said the same thing coming into this week, but so we'll see. But anyways, MVS, trick or treat, rest of the way.
I don't know if I'm just biased with this guy. He's such a freak. He's 6'4", 210. He's fast. He's got good hands. He draws a lot of pass interference penalties, which obviously in fantasy doesn't help you, but it shows you that he's beating people deep and that Rodgers is throwing to him deep. The reason he had only 2 catches last week, but 133 yards is because he caught a huge bomb. The week before that, 50-yard pass interference. 50-yard pass interference. He has those. I don't know the statistics on pass interference, but he probably is one of the league leaders in drawing them. So yeah, it's frustrating that he only had. Actually, this past week he had 1 catch. He had 2 targets, 1 catch.
Targets, 1. I'm sorry, did I say 2 catches? Wow,
that's terrible. Right. Maybe you did say 2 targets. You might have said that, but we'll check the tape. But anyway, he had 2 targets 2 weeks ago, 3 targets last week, 4 targets the week before that. So he hasn't had more than 4 targets since week 4. I think this past week, they exploited running backs trying to cover Aaron Jones and Jamal. And this coach,
right?
I'm sorry, linebackers tried to cover them, and they exploited that. The coach just said, all right, well, we're going to eat them alive with our running backs. So I don't know if you can take too much from this past week. And I also think that this is one of those receivers that does better with the monster on the other side. Scantling needs Adams. And when Adams comes back, which should be very soon, I think that this team is going to be impossible to beat for anybody in the NFC except maybe San Fran or the Saints or something like that. This is going to be a great team. They're really good right now.
Yeah.
And I think Scantling is going to have a chance every week, like a Fuller. You know, Hopkins takes the number one corner, and the Fuller goes down, and he throws a bomb or two, and so I think it's hit or miss, though, with him. It's
Absolutely.
hit or miss. You're not going to get 8 catches.
Well, I'm almost worried. I mean, I look at the fact that when Adams was healthy, he had the slow start. And it was because he wasn't getting the targets. But then you look and you saw that, MVS or Allison got the targets, and you made the comment, well, hey, look, good quarterbacks, they throw to the open guy. If you want to commit too much to taking Adams out, could we be looking at this team this year, this Green Bay Packers, and he's just got too many weapons?
Yeah,
and
it's getting to the point.
So now, you're getting all excited about Adams coming back, but okay, he had the huge game when he got injured against the Eagles, but up until then, he had been very quiet, and it was really just due to the fact that it appeared that Rodgers was saying, look, maybe I do like this young wide receiver core that I have. I've got a lot of different options, and I'll spread it around. I'll throw it to Graham. I'll throw it to whoever's open. So
he's got some big eyes, man.
Yeah.
I was watching the game yesterday and last night, and Lazard is 6'5", 226 or something. Like, my God, where the hell did they find this guy? So they have all these big, fast weapons. Jimmy Graham, 6'7". I mean, and then they got these 2 running backs that both catch the ball really well. They got a good defense. They got a good running game. It's a juggernaut. But as far as fantasy goes, the guy you want is you want one of the Aarons.
So cool. Well, yeah. Well, right. You want one,
Either one of the Aarons or both, and you're really sitting pretty.
Right. Yeah, you feel a lot more safer with having either one of those guys than Devontae Adams. I mean,
what did we say at the beginning of the season?
Excited about Adams coming back, but I have no idea what to expect.
I mean, I think he's gonna, he'll still get fed because he's just so good, and we saw what he did that last week with the Eagles before he got hurt.
Right,
he went off the greasy wheel thing. But we said the same thing. One of the things about fantasy is look at the team that has the most weapons, like the Eagles at the beginning of the year. We told people don't go after Ertz.
Yeah.
We said that no Ertz because there's too many mouths to feed. Go after the guy throwing to all those mouths. Yeah. Same thing now with Rodgers. He's got all these weapons.
Absolutely.
Brady's got all, once you accumulate all those weapons, then you just want the quarterback.
You're safer, right? You're safer.
Like Marvin Jones last week, superstar. Galladay,
this week?
Nothing. This week, Jones, nothing. Galladay, superstar. But guess who was a superstar both weeks? Matt Stafford.
Absolutely.
So you got to get the guy throwing to him unless it's a clear 1 or 2.